Yo, what's going on, guys? This is Houston Sports Talk back into the video today. Today, we're going to be talking about a potential trade for the Houston Rockets, as we're going to be talking about the Houston Rockets potentially trading for Brooklyn Nets rising star Mikal Bridges. This has been something that popped up earlier in the offseason, back when the Rockets were potentially looking to move the fourth overall pick for a good player, when the Rockets were also rumored to sign James Harden. The Rockets were rumored to expected to sign James Harden and potentially move the fourth overall pick for a second great player next to James Harden for this offseason. And now on the NBA Analyst Network, there was an article that said a blockbuster deal that would acquire Houston Mikal Bridges, rising star for the Brooklyn Nets. And here is what that deal would look like. This would be a trade that wouldn't happen until the trade deadline, because one of the players that is involved in this trade just signed a new contract, and that player is, guess who? Dillon Brooks. And if this trade happens, you're going to see Dillon Brooks. This trade cannot happen right now. The Rockets wanted to trade Mikal Bridges, which would take a lot. It could happen right now, but they couldn't involve Dillon Brooks in any trades with anybody until near the trade deadline. It's like January something. It's like January 15th something that they can't trade him till. It's all players that have signed new contracts cannot be traded until like January 15th, and some are like January 22nd. There's like new dates. There's like different dates for players who've signed new contracts that are when they're able to be traded by their new teams, or even if they were on that team before just being re-signed. And let's go over what the trade would be. This trade, if it happened, it wouldn't be till the trade deadline. But here's what it would look like. The Houston Rockets would trade Dillon Brooks, who averaged 14 points per game last season with the Memphis Grizzlies and just signed a new contract with the Houston Rockets. Kevin Porter Jr., who averaged 19 points per game with the Rockets last season with averaged 19 points per game last season with 6 assists per game and 5 rebounds per game with the Rockets last year. They'd also acquire Cam Whitmore, the 20th overall pick in the 2023 NBA draft, was also the Summer League MVP, averaging 19 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, 2 assists per game, and 2.5 steals per game with the Houston Rockets Summer League team, as the Houston Rockets made it all the way to the Summer League championship game. He won Summer League MVP with the Rockets. And don't forget, guys, Cam Whitmore was also projected to be a top 8 pick in the 2023 NBA draft, but fell all the way to 20 to the Houston Rockets. The Nets would also receive the following draft picks: a 2024 first-round pick via the Nets, so they get their own first-round picks back in this deal. So that's another good part of this trade for Brooklyn. They get a 2026 first-round pick via Brooklyn. They get a 2028 first-round pick, top 3 protected to the Nets, for Mikal Bridges and Spencer Dinwiddie. So the Rockets get Spencer Dinwiddie and Mikal Bridges for KPJ, Dillon Brooks, Cam Whitmore, and 3 first-round picks. Why would the Nets do this deal? I know they're not looking to get rid of Mikal Bridges, but this is a decent trade for the Nets to get rid of Mikal Bridges. They're getting some nice young talent with Kevin Porter Jr. and Cam Whitmore. Both of those guys are locked for the next 3 years. Everybody they're getting in this trade are locked up. Dillon Brooks is going to be on contract for the next 4 years. KPJ, next 4 years as well. Cam Whitmore, next 4 years as well. Dillon Brooks, good defender, decent three-point shooter. Kevin Porter Jr., a good all-around player, good three-point shooter. And Cam Whitmore is just a really solid young talent. And then they get 3 first-round picks, and they get their draft picks back. Brooklyn, if they wanted to maybe tank this year and not be good, and potentially want to try to take a year of tanking, I guess, sort of. They couldn't do it because they don't have their draft picks in 2024, 2026, or 2028. So they couldn't do any of that. It's not like there was no point for Brooklyn to lose. There was no point for Brooklyn to try to lose ball games after the end of this season when you saw the Nets acquire Mikal Bridges, get rid of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. There was no point. They don't have their draft picks. They have some of the Suns' draft picks now, but they don't have their own. And I think that was a big thing going into potentially tanking for Brooklyn. But in this deal, you're getting your own draft picks back. If you want to be bad, if you want to be a bad team in 2024, 2026, or 2028 for that matter, you can. If the Nets want to, take a year of, being one of the worst teams in the NBA next year and getting a good draft pick going into the 2024 NBA draft, if they do this deal, they can do that because they have their own draft pick. But similar to another team in the NBA, like the Toronto Raptors, who are a team who definitely, just like the Nets, could tank and be bad next season. But just like the Nets, the Raptors don't have their first round pick either going into the 2024 NBA draft. The San Antonio Spurs own that. So this would be a good trade for the Nets to acquire young talent with Cam Whitmore and Kevin Porter Jr. and even get Dillon Brooks. I know he gets hated, but average almost 15 points per game, is a good defender and a decent three-point shooter, and 3 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges and Spencer Dinwiddie. Maybe, you can see Brooklyn get a better offer for Bridges, but I think that's a pretty good offer. Let's go over some stats before I end the video. Mikal Bridges this season with the Nets and the Suns averaged 20 points per game with 4.5 rebounds per game and 3.5 assists per game with 38% from three-pointer. Spencer Dinwiddie with the Dallas Mavericks and the Brooklyn Nets this season averaged 17 points per game with 7 assists per game and 3 rebounds per game. And then Dillon Brooks with the Grizzlies averaged 14.3 points per game with a total of 1 steal per game with a half a block per game and 3.5 rebounds per game with 33% three-point shooting. And then Kevin Porter Jr. averaged 19.2 points per game with 6 assists per game and 5.5 rebounds per game on 37 three-point shooting. So you guys know your thoughts. Should the Rockets do this trade? I would be down for it. Let's go over what the Rockets roster and lineup would look like if this deal happened. At point guard, you'd have Fred VanVleet. At shooting guard, you'd have Jalen Green. At small forward, you'd have Mikal Bridges. At power forward, you'd have Jabari Smith Jr. At center, you'd have Alperen Sengun. Off the bench as the guards, you'd have Spencer Dinwiddie and Amen Thompson. Off the bench with forwards, you'd have Tari Eason, Jayshawn Tate, and Jeff Green. And you'd also have Jock Landale off the bench. So off the bench is really nice, and the starting unit is really nice as well for this Houston Rockets team. You guys let me know your thoughts. Should the Houston Rockets pull this trade? Would Brooklyn even do it if they offered them this package, though? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. Brooklyn has been pretty sure that they're not getting rid of Mikal Bridges. Is this a far enough offer for Brooklyn to let go of Bridges and Dinwiddie? But I don't know. The Houston Rockets, if they did this trade at the trade deadline, would be a pretty good damn roster they would have with some of the younger stars with Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun and Jabari Smith Jr. And then some of the older near-type all-star players like Fred VanVleet, who's actually been an all-star before, and Mikal Bridges, and then some really solid players off the bench with Tari Eason, Spencer Dinwiddie, Amen Thompson, Jayshawn Tate, and Jock Landale, and even vet Jeff Green. This would be a really solid Rockets team. That's it for the video, though. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on the potential trade for the Rockets, and peace out.